Rebirth of a villainousy going to play this villainous role to the fullest. My fiancé, Ethan, and my biological brother, Michael, have hated me for 10 years. They always believed I was the one who bullied their beloved White Lotus, Lily. During my engagement party, they publicly exposed my crimes in front of everyone. She's the despicable bully who terrorizes her classmates. On a widely streamed live broadcast, Lily, with tears welling up, smiled gently and said, "I don't blame her anymore." In a single night, she became a celebrity, and I was condemned by the whole world. Extremist fans even threw acid on me. I fell into despair. Finally, I chose to drag her down with me. I opened my eyes and found myself back in senior year of high school. Lily, standing in front of me, was pouring water over her own head, a smirk on her face. "Have you figured out how you're going to apologize to me?" I immediately snapped. I grabbed her hair, dragged her into the restroom, and shoved her head into the toilet. "Let me teach you what real bullying is. Your mouth is so filthy. Remember to clean it before you go tattling." The last memory of my previous life was the burning pain of sulfuric acid splashing into my eyes, incinerating every cell and devouring my life. I gritted my teeth, enduring the pain that tore at every nerve. Through my blurred vision, I saw Lily, on the verge of death, being shielded by my brother. Hot blood surged within me. I grabbed a cake knife and lunged at her frantically. The sharp blade plunged straight into her heart. "Let's go to hell together." I opened my eyes. The scene before me was frighteningly clear. No more blurry vision or deathly pain. I froze for 2 seconds until I saw Lily, looking much younger, standing under a running faucet not far away. She was wearing a faded uniform, turning the tap to let water gush over her head. As the water poured, she flashed a bright smile, her eyes sparkling with provocation. "Guess who they'll believe, me or you?" A second later, I snapped back to reality. So, this was that day, the beginning of all the tragedies of my past life. Seeing me frozen and unresponsive, Lily's smirk deepened. Her voice was slow but full of mockery. "Have you thought it through? How are you going to apologize to me, Miss Charlotte?" I didn't answer. In a flash, a raging anger erupted within me. I lunged forward, grabbed her hair, and dragged her straight into the restroom. Her piercing screams echoed through the hallway. I didn't care. Amidst Lily's terrified shrieks, I forcefully pushed her head into the toilet. "Just a little water. And you want to frame me? Fine. Let me teach you what real bullying is." Lily struggled wildly, her arms flailing as if motorized, but she couldn't escape my grip. Her face was forced under the dirty water, her mouth making muffled sounds. "Charlotte, let go of me." Gurgle, cough. I threw my head back and laughed. "Your mouth is so filthy. Remember to clean it before you go tattling." Whether this is the past or just a hallucination after death, I don't care anymore. This time, I'm playing to win. In my previous life, I died on the most glorious day of my life. That day, I won my 3rd acting award, wearing a high-end gown, walking hand in hand with my fiancé, Ethan, my childhood sweetheart, at our grand engagement party, broadcast live across the country. And right in the middle of that magnificent scene, he clutched the microphone, his voice cold as it resonated before millions of viewers. "I will absolutely not marry someone who bullied classmates throughout high school." I was stunned, unable to believe what I had just heard. Just then, Lily walked out from the audience, her eyes sparkling with tears, a gentle smile on her lips. "Charlotte, do you remember me? I'm Lily, the one you bullied for 10 years. You probably never imagined that one day we'd stand on equal footing, but it's okay. I don't blame you anymore." Looking back, a gentle boat has already sailed past 1,000 mountains. Her words were broadcast live to the entire network. At that moment, she instantly became a phenomenon, a pure goddess everyone adored. Before I could even process what was happening, a group of reporters, arranged by Ethan and my brother, Michael, swarmed and surrounded me. "Miss Charlotte, we hear you still have a habit of bullying juniors, even on set. There are rumors you were caught at a gynecologist. Is it because of a wild personal life?" Before I could speak, a crazed fan in the crowd rushed straight at me, holding up a bottle of acid, screaming frantically, "This filthy woman, just die." The cold liquid splattered on my face. A burning pain, like fire, seared my skin. I screamed in despair, my vision blurred completely. From heaven to hell in an instant, I snapped back to reality, letting go of Lily. She collapsed to the ground, her breathing as faint as a thread. Her face, which always appeared innocent and pure, was now stained and dirty. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Go on, cry, make a scene. Go around with this face and tell everyone I bullied you. Go on. Why aren't you going? My voice unconsciously rose. Remembering the sensation of my skin dissolving in acid in my previous life, I raised my foot and stomped on her face 2 more times before calmly turning to leave. Downstairs, Sarah was waiting for me. Gym class started ages ago. What were you doing up there? I casually replied, oh, just bullying a new student a little. Her eyes widened. What? I chuckled. Lu Xun once said, if the whole world considers you a bully, then you might as well act the part. Wait, Lu Xun said that? Does it matter? Sarah and I walked to the gym. As soon as we arrived, I immediately ran into Ethan. He wasn't in my class, but everyone in school knew he was Charlotte's childhood sweetheart boyfriend. Ethan glanced at me, then seemingly unintentionally, peered behind me. Charlotte, why are you so late? I heard there's a new transfer student in your class. In my previous life, whenever Lily fabricated stories to frame me, he always pretended to be neutral, wanting to de-escalate the situation. But in reality, with just a few simple sentences, he implicitly solidified my guilt as a bully. Just thinking about it, I didn't bother to say much. I raised my hand and slapped him squarely across the face. Sarah was shocked for the second time, looking at me as if I were possessed. But Ethan didn't show any anger. He just narrowed his eyes slightly, a cold glint in their depths. Immediately after, he calmly lowered his head, gently rubbing his cheek against mine. His voice was soft and intimate. What's wrong, Charlotte? Are you in a bad mood today? It was a long time in my previous life before I learned the truth. Ethan was abandoned by his birth mother in an amusement park when he was young and was then sent to an orphanage for a while. There, he met a girl full of light. She shared a bed with him and once gave him a candy. She was the only light in Ethan's life, and that light was Lily. The first day she transferred to school, he recognized her immediately. From then on, he never doubted a single word she said. Every time she acted weak and pitiful, accusing me of bullying her, he believed her completely, hating me to his core. But because of his status as an illegitimate child, he was forced to swallow his anger and pretend to be obedient, trying to curry favor with me. He needed a marriage to me to establish himself in the family. Thinking about this, I calmly spoke. Let's break up, Ethan. He was momentarily shocked, his pupils contracting. Why? Give me a reason, Charlotte. I silently pulled out a tissue and slowly wiped the part of my face he had rubbed. I wiped it bit by bit unhurriedly, then chuckled. I don't want to date the son of a homewrecker. It feels dirty. Is that reason enough? After we left, Sarah cautiously turned to me and asked, are you possessed? I wasn't surprised by her question because, in high school, the Charlotte of that time had loved Ethan so sincerely and intensely. Every day after school, I patiently waited for him to walk home together. I once struggled to bake cookies for him, blistering my entire hand, but still smiled radiantly, bringing him my blatant favoritism that the whole world knew about. But now it's different. The Charlotte of senior year is dead. The Charlotte standing here now is someone who has died once, who has crawled out of hell. It's Ava Charlotte. An entire day passed, and Lily didn't appear. I knew very well that what she cherished most was her face. If she couldn't exploit that to the fullest, she wouldn't easily make a move. But I had enough patience to wait. Soon enough, Saturday arrived, my 18th birthday. My parents had told me beforehand that they would hold a grand party to celebrate my coming of age. However, an urgent matter came up at their company, and they couldn't help but be a little late. Under the dazzling crystal lights, I wore an elegant gown and gracefully descended the spiral staircase. From afar, I saw my brother, Michael. He was in a neat suit, his face as calm and cold as ever, standing there, staring at me. Charlotte, come here. I smiled and walked over, pretending not to see the ominous gaze of Ethan behind him, and not bothering to pay attention to Lily's tear-streaked, pathetic expression. My voice was clear and soft. What do you need, brother? Are you preparing a birthday gift for me? Michael silently looked at me for a few seconds, his eyes cold, then spoke in a deep voice. Bullying classmates, humiliating friends. Charlotte, is this how the Miller family taught you? His voice was not quiet. In an instant, all eyes at the party turned to us. I gently blinked, my voice full of innocence. What are you talking about? I don't understand anything. I turned to look at Lily, my head tilted in confusion. I haven't humiliated anyone, nor have I bullied anyone, and I don't even know her. Michael smirked, his voice stern. It's too late to deny it now. If you do wrong, you must pay the price. Today, Mom and Dad aren't here, so I'll discipline you on their behalf. With that, he reached out and took a wooden ruler from an antique bookshelf nearby. His gaze swept over me, his voice enunciating each word coldly. Kneel. In the large hall, countless eyes were fixed on me, filled with anticipation for a good show. What? Bullying classmates? A girl from the Miller family would do such a thing? Tiesk, spoiled from childhood, can't stand it when others are better than her. It's normal. Luckily, her brother is handling it and not covering for her. Under Lily's triumphant and provocative gaze, I kept my back straight, unwavering. My lips curved into a sarcastic smile. What the hell are you talking about, Michael? Anyone who didn't know would think you were my brother. Anyone who didn't know would think you were possessed by some ghost from the past. I tilted my head, my eyes shining brightly, enunciating each word clearly. In this life, I only kneel before my deceased ancestors. I paused for a moment, then lazily glanced at him from head to toe, before maliciously laughing. Or how about this? You go jump off a building right now. I'll immediately kneel and kowtow 3 times to send you off. Michael's face instantly darkened. Just then, Lily from behind him feigned weakness and spoke softly. Sister Charlotte, I know you don't like me. You can bully me, but how can you say such things to your brother? She widened her teary, sparkling eyes, deliberately feigning innocence. Ethan, standing beside her, had a fleeting, unfathomable dark glint in his eyes. Ethan slowly spoke, his voice low and gentle, as if patiently advising. Charlotte, if you've done wrong, just apologize. There's no need to. I immediately widened my eyes, feigning extreme difficulty, my voice troubled. Sorry, I don't understand dog barking. Can you speak in human language again? Enough, Michael roared, his eyes darkening. Charlotte, you're a girl. Do you know what shame is? Who taught you to speak so crudely and act so uncultured? Just like in my previous life, no matter what I said, he would never believe me. He always held a deep prejudice, always wanted to nail me to the pillar of humiliation, never giving me a chance to explain. I slightly curled my lips, imitating his cold tone, and responded indifferently. Mom and Dad are busy and don't have time to supervise me. Guess who taught me this? I laughed, my voice full of sarcasm. Of course, it was you, my dear brother. In my previous life, I was always afraid of him, but I also loved Michael. He was much older than me, and in my heart, he was always a dignified older brother. When I was little, my parents were busy with work, so he was the one who disciplined me. If I made even a small mistake, my hand would be hit with a wooden ruler, and I would even be punished by going hungry all day. Once, I picked up a stray, fluffy puppy and brought it home. He coldly stood at the door, not allowing the housekeeper to open it for me. So dirty. This house doesn't welcome things like that. I was distraught, holding the small dog, and silently sat on the steps all night. At that time, I was still too young. I always thought that his personality was just cold, that he didn't know how to be gentle with his sister like other brothers. It wasn't until Lily appeared that I fully realized. He wasn't unable to be gentle. He just wasn't gentle with me. I once saw him sitting in his car, handing Lily a hot cup of milk, his hand gently stroking her hair, his voice low and tender. Remember to eat 3 meals a day. If you don't have money, I'm here. I also saw Lily hugging a scrawny stray cat in the rain, while he held an umbrella over her, gently asking, do you want to keep it? When she was drunk, clutching his shirt corner and rambling incoherently, he wasn't annoyed. Instead, he listened patiently, his eyes filled with tenderness. In my previous life, I was immersed in my own illusions, constantly wondering why my brother didn't love me, why my fiancé didn't side with me. But after living again, I finally realized I am an independent individual. Without love, I can still live well. The birthday party ultimately couldn't proceed as planned. While Michael and I were in a tense standoff, my parents finally returned. They maintained their calm and polite demeanor, thanking and seeing each guest out. Just when I thought Lily would seize the opportunity to continue her pathetic act in front of my mother merely smiled faintly, cutting off Lily's words. "Excuse me, young lady, we'll handle the Miller family's affairs ourselves. Please leave." Lily froze, her eyes as if choked. She silently looked up at Michael, her eyes welling up with tears, but she had no choice but to turn and leave. After only Michael and I were left in the house, my father finally looked at us both and spoke in a deep voice. "All right, now explain clearly what happened." I didn't wait for Michael to speak. I immediately seized the opportunity. Some time ago, a new transfer student came to my school. On her very first day, she poured water over her own head and then screamed frantically that I had bullied her. Later, I found out she was the student my brother had been sponsoring, a poor student named Lily. As soon as I finished, Michael immediately looked up, his eyes filled with astonishment. "Surprised? Aren't you, brother? Did you think I didn't know about your secret relationship?" I lightly pressed the corner of my red eye, my voice slightly choked, my expression so aggrieved that anyone who saw it would feel sympathy. "Actually, I never blamed her. It's just a birthday party. What's the big deal?" I took a deep breath, my voice both gentle and filled with bitterness. "I just felt so sad that you, brother, didn't believe me. In this world, Lily isn't the only one who can play the white lotus dot in the silent atmosphere." My father's voice rang out, authoritative but also enough to halt any arguments. "All right, no matter who is right or wrong, this matter will not be blown out of proportion. If it gets out, it will negatively affect both of you. This ends here." Back at school, I began to openly bully Lily. I poured black ink into her desk and chuckled when she mispronounced English words during readings. I tore her physics test into pieces, showering the shredded paper over her head. "Go on, keep tattling," I sneered. "Isn't that your specialty?" A small piece of paper floated down from her hair. She looked up at me, a chilling glint of hatred flickering in her eyes. Yet, in the end, she could only tremble, tears streaming down her face, whimpering, "Please. I'm sorry, Sister Charlotte. If there's anything I did to displease you, I apologize. I'll change, okay?" I blinked, my lips curling into an amused smile. "Just your existence displeases me. How are you going to change that? Go die right now?" She opened her mouth as if to speak but couldn't utter a sound. In the end, she could only continue to cry. For the first time, I felt how exhilarating it was to be the villain. Of course, she still tattled to the teacher. The teacher called me to the office. I quietly wiped the corners of my eyes, my red eyes starting to well up as I recounted the events of the birthday party. Finally, I gently took out a hospital certificate. That day, because of her false accusations, my brother humiliated me in front of so many people. Every time I remember it, I burst into tears. I also frequently wake up in a cold sweat from nightmares. I'm currently seeing a therapist and taking medication. The doctor said I have severe depression. In the end, the teacher had to comfort me instead. Everyone clearly saw one thing. I absolutely detested Lily. Sarah frowned, puzzled. "What do you have against her anyway? What did she do to you?" I threw my head back and flashed her a radiant smile. "Can't it just be that I'm a rich villain who looks down on per transfer students?" "Stop being dramatic," Sarah scoffed, giving me a disdainful look. "If you were that kind of person, then why don't you bully me? My family is even poorer than hers. From the very first day we became friends, you bought all my stationery for all 3 years of high school. If you told me you bullied a classmate, I'd sooner believe I'm Empress Wazishan. Do you really think I don't know what kind of person you are?" Exactly. It was that simple. Anyone could understand it, but only my brother and the person I once loved couldn't understand me. I slightly curled my lips, but there was no hint of a smile in my eyes. The school's 100th anniversary celebration was just 1 month away. In my previous life, during this very ceremony, with arrangements by Michael and Ethan, Lily performed a piano solo. Thanks to that performance, she caught the eye of a special admissions officer and secured the only direct admission spot. And me? I started dancing at 4 years old, practicing for over 10 years. I had prepared a classical dance performance for the ceremony. But then, Ethan came to me. As twilight fell over the school campus, he gently embraced me, his voice low, full of possessive tenderness. "Don't participate, okay, Charlotte? I don't want too many people to see how beautiful you are. I'd be jealous. Please, just dance for me alone, okay?" How foolish I was then. I was ecstatic. thinking it was because he cared about me. So, on the day of the anniversary celebration, I really didn't go on stage. In a quiet dance studio, I danced repeatedly, just for that one audience member, him. The music stopped. From the distant main hall, thunderous applause erupted. Ethan heard it and suddenly laughed. His smile was always gentle, always veiled in a mist, as if nothing in this world could sway him. But that time, I clearly saw his emotions fluctuate. So, I foolishly stopped, curious, and asked, "Are you happy?" He paused for a moment, then nodded. Happy. At that time, I thought he was happy because I had danced only for him. It was much later that I learned he was happy because Lily's performance had been a huge success, because the only light in his life had finally secured a brilliant future. I submitted my application for the performance early, but this time it wasn't a solo dance. I gathered all the girls in my class who were interested in performing and staged a group classical dance. I personally paid for a tutor, ordered the most expensive costumes, and prepared custom design props. Compared to Lily's piano solo in a simple white dress, our performance was infinitely more dazzling and spectacular. I don't know what Lily cried and told Michael, but that evening, when I came home from school, he was waiting in the garden, blocking my path. "Charlotte." Michael stared at me, his face devoid of emotion. "Your performance at the anniversary ceremony? Cancel it." I smiled lightly, raising an eyebrow provocatively. "Michael, what are you barking about again?" He curled his lips, his eyes full of cold sarcasm. "Don't think I'm negotiating with you. If you insist on performing, you'll bear the consequences." I stopped, looked directly into his ominous eyes, and slowly enunciated each word. "Brother, your beautiful friend has been practicing piano for over 10 years, and she still lacks confidence. When she has to share the stage with me." I tilted my head, my lips curving into a mocking smile. What a useless person. With the anniversary celebration not far off, Ethan came to me. "Charlotte." He looked at me, his eyes complex. "What happened last time was my fault, but you blocked all contact and refused to see me." "I don't know what happened. Charlotte, did you misunderstand me, or have you fallen for someone else?" As he spoke the last words, his voice carried a clear hint of pain. "But you yourself said you would always only love me the most." A surge of sharp anger mixed with pain suddenly erupted within me. I had truly loved him for so many years. He said he didn't like me doing kissing scenes, so I refused countless offers from top directors. He said Lily had a pitiful background, having been bullied in the orphanage, and told me not to be too calculative with her, so I forgave her repeated attempts to overstep and deliberately provoke me. I only hoped to exchange sincerity for sincerity, but all I received was 10 years of false accusations and hatred. In that moment, I suddenly realized I didn't even want to pretend to be nice to him anymore. Without hesitation, I grabbed Ethan's collar and shoved him hard, slamming him against the tree behind him. He took a sharp breath, but before he could speak, I swung my arm and slapped him hard across the face, holding nothing back. His cold, pale skin immediately turned red. I leaned close, enunciating each word. "I've known for a long time. You and Lily already knew each other. You like her, don't you? So why are you still acting so devoted in front of me? You want to keep me, but you also want to chase the only light in your life? You're no different from your own mother, someone who clearly knows she's the third party but still shamelessly interferes." As soon as I finished, Ethan's eyes darkened, emotions swirling within him like a fierce storm, but he didn't cold utter a single word. I laughed coldly, let go of him, and didn't spare him another glance as I turned and walked away. That night, I had a rare dream. I dreamed of what happened after I died in my previous life. I saw the cake knife plunge deep into Lily's chest. I saw myself, in extreme pain, dying in despair, while she was rushed to the emergency room. Outside the ward, Ethan grabbed Michael's collar, his voice filled with anger and grief. "You said you'd handle everything. You said you'd protect her." Michael shook his hand off, his tone cold as ice. "I agreed to share her with you. You're just an illegitimate child. Without my help, do you think you could control the Miller family? Don't bite off more than you can chew." Ethan staggered back a few steps, his lips moving as if to refute something. But as the words left his mouth, he abruptly fell silent. Michael smirked coldly. "That's right. My sister helped you, but she's dead. Do you remember who contacted The acid attacker? It was you, Ethan. Have you forgotten? The space fell silent. Ethan stood there, not saying a word. On the emergency room door, the danger light still flashed red. After a long time, the doctor pushed the door open, his voice calm but sharp. The patient is still in critical condition. Ethan trembled slightly. He stared at Lily's pale, bloodless face. A second later, his eyes shifted slightly, and he spoke in a frighteningly casual tone. I never forgot, and I never regretted it. I woke up from the dream with a sudden surge of nausea. I stumbled into the bathroom, clutching the toilet, dry heaving for a long time. It wasn't until I looked up that I saw myself in the mirror. My eyes were bloodshot, filled with boundless hatred. I whispered, my voice sounding cold even to myself. No regrets? That's fine. This life, I'll make you regret it. Regret ever being born into this world. Just wait and see. On the day of the anniversary celebration, as I passed by the artificial lake on campus, I coincidentally ran into Lily. She was wearing a delicate but luxurious silver dress, a sparkling diamond necklace around her neck. I didn't need to guess. It was definitely a gift from Michael to appease her. Lily stood before me, her voice sharp, her eyes cold and full of hatred. Charlotte, do you think your status as a Miller princess can protect you forever? You've bullied me for so long. Do you really think I won't retaliate? I'll make you pay 100, 1,000 times over. So what if you know about my relationship with Ethan? He loves me. Your brother only loves me. As for you, you'll never get anyone's love in this life. She laughed triumphantly and arrogantly. I chuckled, raising an eyebrow slightly. I simply replied, did the toilet water taste good? Lily's expression immediately changed. I calmly turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, her face alternating between red and white, too angry to speak. In the afternoon, the sun blazed like fire, its rays stretching to the horizon. My dance group and I had changed into our gorgeous ball gowns and rushed towards backstage. Halfway there, I suddenly realized that the special prop for the finale was missing. I frowned, trying to remember if I had left it in the practice room. Do you want me to go with you? Sarah asked worriedly. I shook my head and smiled. No need. The prop isn't heavy. I can carry it. You all go to backstage first, finish your makeup, then talk to the stage manager to rearrange the prop order. For me, okay? I finished speaking, turned, and walked straight to the multi-purpose building. It was deserted. Not a soul in sight. My dress shimmering gold, I climbed the stairs towards the dance studio. But just as I was about to reach that floor, I suddenly stopped. A few steps ahead, someone stood blocking the way. The red twilight pierced through the window, half of his face shrouded in shadow, only his eyes bright and deep like a bottomless whirlpool. Ethan. He opened his mouth, his voice low, like a storm about to break. Charlotte, what are you doing? I curled my lips, my voice not bothering to conceal my disdain. What business is it of yours? Get away from me. I lifted my skirt and walked straight up the stairs, but the moment I brushed past him, a powerful force suddenly gripped my shoulder. For a blank second, I had no time to react. The next moment, my entire body was pushed backward. Behind me were dozens of towering stairs. My body lost its balance and fell straight down. Thud. My back slammed hard against a stair. The pain tore at every nerve. The fall was too great. I couldn't regain my balance. My body rolled down, each sharp stair hitting my bones, the pain so intense my mind was almost blank. Finally, my entire body slammed into the iron railing. My ankle twisted at an odd angle. A small snap sound echoed, and a sharp pain shot through me, as if my leg bone had cracked. Ethan slowly descended, standing right beside me. He still looked at me with those calm eyes. The twilight illuminated half of his face, making him appear indifferent. He opened his mouth, his voice frighteningly cold. Charlotte, don't blame me. You've had everything since you were little. Even if you miss this opportunity, you still have countless other paths to take. But Lily isn't like you. She's tried her hardest, and this is her last chance. With that, he bent down, his cold hand gripping my ankle. Before I could react, he used all his might and brutally slammed my leg against the iron railing. Thud. The intense pain felt as if all the bones in my leg had shattered. Images from my dream suddenly flashed in my mind. In it, he stood outside the ward next to Michael, his eyes full of tenderness and love, silently watching Lily being wheeled out of the emergency room. But when he spoke of me, His tone was frighteningly indifferent. I never regretted it. I dedicated the most beautiful 15 years of my life, used my most sincere and intense love to someone like that. I laughed. The moment Ethan was about to slam my leg against the railing, I suddenly broke free, pulling my leg from his grasp. I spat out a single word, cold, useless. My sprained ankle caused me so much pain, I gasped, but I gritted my teeth. Taking advantage of Ethan's momentary surprise, I grabbed his hair and slammed his head straight into the iron railing. Thud. The sound of impact echoed through the stairwell. His forehead hit the sharp corner, and a fresh trail of blood immediately oozed out, each drop falling and soaking into his pristine white shirt collar. He flinched slightly, his eyes blurring and unfocused from the pain. "Charlotte?" He hoarsely called my name. I took a deep breath, released his hair, and slowly stood up. The pain from my sprained ankle continued to throb, but I didn't care. I bent down, staring into his pained and dazed eyes, and slowly formed a smile. "How touching, my dear young master. To support your white lotus, you can even ruthlessly sacrifice my life? Is this Michael's warning to me? Did you two conspire beforehand to share her?" I curled my lips, my smile even more sarcastic. "It's sickening." I lifted my dress and gently, repeatedly, rubbed the bloodstains on Ethan's face. The splotches of red on my light-colored dress blended together into a distorted mess. Then, I left him there in the deepening twilight. I rushed straight towards the auditorium. From afar, the soft sounds of a piano echoed, weaving into the silent night. Lily was still playing the same piece as in my previous life, Debussy's Claire de Lune. On stage, she sat before a pristine white piano, wearing a sparkling silver dress. Everything around her was dark. Only a spotlight shone down, making her look like the only star shining in the night sky. Just like in my previous life, when she stepped on my bones and blood to reach such dazzling heights that it disgusted me, I dashed down the aisle between the rows of audience seats, running straight towards the stage. Security and the MC quickly tried to stop me, but I broke free from their grasp and leaped onto the performance platform. Under the astonished gaze of the entire audience, I stood right in the center of the only light on stage. A second later, bang, I kicked Lily off the piano stool. The music abruptly ceased. She fell hard to the floor, her eyes wide with shock and panic. I didn't give her a chance to react. I swung my arm and punched the piano lid. "Hit, hit, hit. I'll let you hit," my voice shrieked, filled with madness. "You sent your little lapdog to harm me, and you still have the nerve to sit here and play the piano?" Thud. I stomped hard on the keyboard, and the jarring sounds of the piano echoed throughout the hall. I knew, of course, that the special admissions professor invited by Michael was sitting right there, below the stage. In my previous life, it was after hearing this Claire de Lune that he actively contacted Lily after the performance, offering her the sole direct admission spot, and she accepted. That was just the first step on her brilliant path. Later, under Michael's meticulous arrangements, she was even taken on as a disciple by a world-renowned music master. And me? For a movie role where I had to play an autistic piano prodigy, my agent arranged for me to learn from that very master. But after meeting Lily just once, that evening when I returned home, Michael stood blocking the door, his voice full of disgust and contempt. "Charlotte, aren't you going to stop? Just because you're not as good as Lily, you hate her so much that you tore up the handwritten music she wrote for the teacher? You're such a wretched child." I was stunned for a few seconds. When I finally reacted, I instinctively wanted to explain, but he just shook his hand dismissively, coldly cutting me off. Lying to this extent? No matter how you try to justify it, I won't believe a word. Back in reality, the entire auditorium had erupted. The audience buzzed in chaotic shouts. Someone suddenly yelled, "Blood! Her dress is covered in blood." Only then did I look down at my magnificent dress, stained red with blood and dirt, blending into grotesque splotches. My hair was also messy and disheveled. My legs were swollen, my ankle bruised and swollen. My entire body looked covered in wounds, as if I had just endured torture. I slowly raised my head, my eyes brimming with tears. Every detail on my body at that moment was clearly testifying to the truth. I had been harmed. Across from me, Lily trembled, pushing herself up with the piano stool, scrambling to her feet. Her eyes filled with resentment and hatred, swirling for a moment, but very quickly, she returned to her usual weak and innocent demeanor. She looked up, her voice trembling slightly. "Sister Charlotte, I don't understand what you're saying. Perhaps there's some misunderstanding. But this is my performance now. Out of respect for the audience, you shouldn't interrupt like this." Just then, Michael angrily leaped up from below the stage, roaring with rage. "Charlotte, are you insane?" I didn't bother to pay attention. Under countless astonished gazes, I pushed Lily's hand away and calmly sat down at the piano. A powerful and majestic melody suddenly erupted. I played Beethoven's Symphony of Fate. In my previous life, for a movie that required me to play the piano myself without a stunt double, I had practiced diligently for 3 months. Although I hadn't reached a master level, it was more than enough for this setting. The grand and resolute sounds filled the auditorium. The music resonated, blending with a slight electronic interference in the sound system, echoing against the high ceiling of the hall. The entire auditorium suddenly fell into absolute silence. No one spoke. No one could take their eyes off the stage. Each note seemed to strike forcefully into the minds of everyone present. When the last note resonated, I slowly turned my head. My gaze locked onto Lily, and coldly spoke. "You ruined my birthday party. You incited my brother to turn his back on me. You slandered me in front of my friends and family. I will have a way to repay all of that." I paused for a moment, seeing Lily's face suddenly turn pale, completely drained of blood. I chuckled, each word and sentence like a knife cutting through her skin. "But you had Ethan push me down the stairs just because you didn't want me on this stage? And you don't even have the courage to compete with me fairly? Aren't you most proud of your piano skills?" I raised an eyebrow, my voice sharp and sarcastic. "So why are you afraid to compete with me?" The stage and audience were in complete chaos. Finally, the program director had to come on stage and pull Lily and me away. The MC quickly stepped in to save the situation, continuing the program. The next performance was my classical dance with the girls from my class. As I passed by the backstage area, I saw my fellow dancers ready. Sarah, her eyes red, ran up and tightly gripped my hand, asking worriedly, "You're hurt, aren't you?" "I should have gone with you." I gently patted her head and smiled softly. "I'm fine. Go on stage. We've practiced for so long. Let's do our best." The first prize in this competition is 100,000 yuan. From the beginning, I hadn't choreographed this dance just for myself. Standing in the shadows, watching them step onto the stage, my heart finally eased. Then, I closed my eyes. The pain from my injuries and the exhaustion crashed over me like a huge wave, submerging all my senses. At the hospital, my consciousness gradually sank into darkness. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. That night, Michael burst straight into my room. He was furious. As soon as he entered, he roared, "You're insane, Charlotte. You're truly insane." He had originally intended to slowly, step by step, elevate the girl he loved, placing her in the most brilliant position, like meticulously tending to a flower to make it bloom, bringing him absolute satisfaction. "But brother, did you think I'd give you that chance?" I tilted my head, flashing a provocative smile. "What now, brother? Your White Lotus not only failed her performance, but your plan to break my leg has also been exposed. From now on, she can't get into the school she dreamed of." I suddenly remembered something, and the smile on my lips deepened. I chuckled sarcastically, looking directly at Michael. "Oh, and your accomplice, Ethan, is still lying on the floor of the multi-purpose building. If you have time, remember to take him to the hospital." I clutched the corner of my blanket and laughed loudly. My injured ankle twitched, the pain distorting my features. In Michael's eyes, my appearance at that moment was reflected. A madwoman, her eyes blazing as if on fire. Or perhaps from the day I died in my previous life, I had already gone insane. Michael's facial muscles twitched slightly, anger flashing in his eyes, but he immediately suppressed it. His face returned to its familiar cold and arrogant expression. He chuckled softly, his voice full of contempt. "So what, Charlotte? Even if Lily failed, you couldn't perform your piece anyway. Not only that, your crazy behavior today was completely caught on camera. This time, you can't just use a fake diagnosis to fool everyone anymore. The school has contacted Mom and Dad. They're preparing to suspend you." I laughed loudly, completely fearless. I looked directly into his arrogant eyes, each word and sentence sharp as a knife. "Suspension? Do you think I care? Don't forget, you and I are both Miller family descendants. Just as Ethan once said, if I lose this path, I still have countless other paths to take. I tilted my head, smiling brightly. From the beginning, my only goal was one thing, to pull Lily away from the light she yearned for. That's all. In my previous life, she framed me with fabricated crimes. In this life, I'll make those things come true. The path she took, I will block step by step. We're far from over, Lily. I had caused a huge commotion at the anniversary ceremony, and I even hit Ethan and Lily in front of everyone. The incidents of me bullying Lily at school before that were also uploaded online, creating a storm of public opinion. The story of a rich young lady and a poor female student fighting whether 10 years ago or 10 years from now is enough to stir up public opinion. But this time, everything was different, because I stood on stage and clearly spoke every single word. Because of my pathetic appearance, because of Beethoven's Symphony of Fate, full of rage and madness. This time, not everyone sided with Lily anymore. It's not necessarily the rich young lady bullying the poor one, is it? Just listening to her play, I don't believe she's that kind of person. How hilarious. Are all these fortune tellers now? Can you really guess someone's character just by listening to them play? But aside from that, look at her leg. It's swollen, like a dumpling. She's covered in blood. Who bullies someone else and ends up looking like this themselves? Right or wrong aside, this girl's spirit is amazing, like she's living 8 versions ahead of her time. Even Sarah and the dance group went online to argue with netizens. What are you talking about? Charlotte isn't that kind of person. Lily brazenly provoked her first. The online debate raged fiercely, with attacks from both sides, but I didn't bother to care. During the days I was in the hospital, I don't know what Michael said to Mom and Dad, but all I know is that on the day I was discharged and returned home, he looked at me, his voice extremely cold. Just a short time without supervision, and you've become this lawless. Now the school no longer accepts you. In that case, go study abroad, stay out of sight for a while, wait for the storm to pass, then come back. My father's attitude didn't surprise me at all, because between Michael and me, he always prioritized his son. In my previous life, when the engagement party incident occurred, my father was still alive. Michael created such a big drama. There was no way to hide it from him. But until I died, he never said a single word to me. But that doesn't matter anymore. I slightly curled my lips and smiled faintly. Okay. My father nodded, his voice calm. You always wanted to study acting. I'll help you contact a prestigious art academy. No, I suddenly interrupted. I want to study finance. I'll go to business school. Both my father and Michael were stunned. My father stared at me, his eyes gradually deepening into profound thought. My admission procedures were quickly completed. Meanwhile, Ethan was still in the hospital, much more severely injured than I was. I heard Lily visited him, Sarah said, sitting sullenly on the sofa, clutching a bouquet of white lilies. She pouted. The perfect scumbag and bitch couple. They were the ones who wanted to break your leg, and now you're the heartless one. I'd like to ask, where exactly are you heartless? I lazily glanced at the bouquet in her hand. These flowers are expensive, aren't they? That prize money was for everyone to keep for themselves. Sarah smiled gently, tucking the bouquet into my hand. It's fine. Everyone knew you were going to study abroad, so we all chipped in a bit for me to buy you flowers. She took a deep breath, as if having made a decision, and looked at me, her voice a little hesitant. Charlotte, I've always had a feeling that you know some things I don't. Since Lily transferred here, something has been very different, but I can't put my finger on it. If I'm talking nonsense, just ignore me. She pulled back, carefully giving me a gentle hug. Come back soon. When you return, we'll still be friends. The night before I left, I sat on the balcony, enjoying the night breeze. My mother sat beside me, her eyes a little worried, as if she wanted to say something but held back. I took her hand, looked straight into her eyes, and said softly, Mom, don't worry about me. In my previous life, my mother died in a car accident. When she was alive, no matter how much my father favored his son, Michael wouldn't dare lay a hand on me. Thinking about this, my heart suddenly tightened. In my previous life, Michael later completely lost his mind because of his love for Lily. A cold thought suddenly crept into my mind. Was my mother's car accident that year truly accidental? My heart suddenly clenched. I unconsciously gripped my mother's hand tightly, my voice full of caution. Mom, you must be careful and protect yourself well. I paused for a moment, then finally decided to speak. And also, be careful of Michael. My mother stared at me with a puzzled look, then gently sighed. Little Charlotte, you seem to have changed. You're not like you used to be. She smiled bitterly and shook her head. It was my fault, darling. I was so foolish before, believing everything anyone said. I told you that boy Ethan wasn't trustworthy, but you still defended him. He's not the person you think he is, Mom, even for your birthday. I wanted to ask your father to give you shares, but you just laughed and said all you needed was a beautiful dress and jewelry. You made me so angry. At that time, I just wished you could be a little smarter, a little more perceptive. But if this change comes at such a painful price, I'd rather you remain as foolish as you were before. Is there any mother in this world who doesn't understand her daughter? In my previous life, I was indeed a complete fool, always judging others with the greatest kindness. That's why Lily harmed me again and again, but I never truly sought revenge on her. That's why I eventually died at my own engagement party. My mother gently rubbed the corners of her red eyes, chuckling faintly. This world is inherently a place where the strong devour the weak. A kind fool can only become prey. What a pity that to understand this truth, I had to die. At 18, I packed my luggage and went abroad. Everything around me, the people, the environment, the opportunities was completely unfamiliar. But I wasn't afraid, because I knew too much about the future. Although I didn't remember every small detail, the important milestones were enough for me to change many things. And most importantly, 2 years later, in my previous life, when I was 20, Michael learned of a man named Charles from some source, and then personally flew to San Francisco to meet him. Charles held the most advanced core technology. In just 5 years, he helped Michael completely take over the Miller Group, elevating him to the pinnacle of power. But in this life, I wouldn't let that happen. I used the money my mother gave me to invest in the stock market. Based on the remaining memories from my previous life, I multiplied my initial capital many times over. At the same time, I studied twice the amount of knowledge and invested the money I earned into several companies that, in my previous life, made it onto the Fortune 500 list. Currently, most of these companies were still in their startup phase, but I knew very well that they were the future dragons. During this time, Sarah often contacted me. She called every week to tell me news from back home. Sometimes she'd say all the dance team members miss me very much. Sometimes she'd say her life had improved greatly since receiving the prize money. One day, her voice was filled with joy. Charlotte, do you know what happened? A school just held open admissions, and Lily participated. I raised an eyebrow, and haha, she got rejected in the interview round. Sarah laughed uncontrollably, then lowered her voice mysteriously. Guess who interviewed her that day? It was the professor who was at the school festival that year. He said her Claire de Lune was too murky, lacking emotion, and completely incomparable to your symphony of fate. I slightly curled my lips, forming an indifferent smile. Of course, because in this life, I robbed her of all her glory. Do you know, when Lily left the interview room, she hugged her loyal dog, Ethan, and just sobbed? And every time she cried miserably, the happier I felt. Sarah laughed heartily, and I chuckled along, but my smile was much colder, because this battle was far from over. When I received Sarah's message, I was struggling with final exams for 2 majors. While my head spun from the pressure, I looked at the short message on my phone screen. University entrance exam results are out. I'm first in the entire school, third in the city. I slightly curved my lips, a genuine smile appearing. Congratulations. On the other end, she immediately replied, very quickly, Charlotte, I'm still waiting for you to come back and continue being my friend. My mother also frequently called, asking about my life abroad and incidentally sharing news about Michael. Sometimes she worriedly asked if I had enough money to spend. Each time I briefly mentioned what I was doing, she would just sigh helplessly. You're still a young girl. Don't push yourself too hard. If you need anything from me, just tell me. Don't be shy. I paused for a moment, then slowly said, Mom, I need you to investigate someone for me. I told her Charles's name and everything I remembered from my previous life. Before ending the call, I carefully instructed her on one thing. Mom, you absolutely must hide this from my brother. I arrived in San Francisco a month earlier than Michael. On my first day, as I was looking for someone to ask for, directions, I unexpectedly saw a very familiar face on the lawn near the university. Charles. He was a few years younger, his face still a bit naive. Standing in front of him was a tall, thin girl with short hair and glasses, her eyes sharp and cold. She glared at him, her tone uncompromising. "That's my research. Who gave you permission to take it without my consent to discuss commercial cooperation?" Charles laughed awkwardly, his voice coaxing. "Why say that? You're part of it too. Aren't we researching together?" The girl scoffed, her voice laced with sarcasm. "The idea is mine. The experiments were done by me. You only took notes for a short period. Do you really think you have the right to handle this project?" Charles's face darkened. He gritted his teeth. "Isabella, don't be unreasonable. We're about to graduate. Aren't I worrying about both our futures? What's the use of holding on to it? Isn't it best to find a trustworthy company to cooperate and develop it?" Isabella remained unmoved, her voice even colder. "I'll say it one last time. It's mine. The patent is in my hands. You know absolutely nothing about the core technology. You still want to find someone to cooperate with? As long as I'm alive, don't even dream of it. And one more thing, from now on, we're breaking up. You and I have no more relationship." With that, she turned and walked away, her steps decisive. Charles stood stunned, staring at her retreating figure, his eyes gradually shifting from resentment to coldness. I took a step back, a smile of interest playing on my lips. It seemed the game had more interesting twists than I expected. In Charles's eyes, a chilling hint of murderous intent seemed to flash. I stood still, a thought suddenly clear in my mind. In my previous life, I had heard Lily ask Michael, "How do you control a talent like Charles?" At that time, he chuckled, wrapping his arms around her, the two of them sitting by the pool, his voice lazy and confident. "Because he has something he needs my help with." More importantly, in my previous life, I had never heard the name Isabella, never had any trace of her existence. But now, she stood right in front of me. She was the one who created the core technology that Charles wanted to steal. A crucial piece of this entire chess game had revealed itself. I narrowed my eyes, my lips curving slightly, my gaze suddenly becoming sharp. It seemed in this battle, I had found a new trump card. I managed to set up a meeting with Isabella. Finally, at a cafe far from her university, we sat opposite each other. She didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "Miss Miller, I know why you're looking for me, but I won't sell my research." I calmly asked, "Why?" She hesitated for a moment but finally replied, "Currently, it's just an incomplete product." I paused with the coffee cup in my hand. She continued, her voice filled with firm conviction. "I know that for business people like you, the most important thing is commercial value, but I don't care about that. What I care about is the final outcome, whether it can bring a breakthrough to human science and technology. For me, it's intrinsic. Value is more important than anything else." I looked straight at her, my eyes fixed on her. As she spoke of her ideals, her simple, unadorned face glowed brilliantly. She was so radiant, someone who should have become a great scientist, leaving her mark in history. But in my previous life, merely due to the selfish desires of two men, she died in a foreign land like a forgotten speck of dust, crushed by the wheel of time, disappearing without a trace. She stood up, her voice calm. "Miss Miller, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." The moment she turned, I put my hand across her path. She frowned slightly but didn't show anger. I looked straight into her eyes, my voice sincere and resolute. "Miss Tan, I am willing to fund all the necessary costs and resources for your research. You just need to continue completing your project. After you have a finished product, I only hope you'll help me with one small thing. This achievement will still belong to you. History will remember your name. Can you do that?" The day I returned home, the first snow of the season fell, blanketing the ground. Pulling my suitcase out of the airport, my eyes immediately landed on a giant billboard. On it was Lily's exquisitely made-up face. Over the past few years, while I was busy building my company, preparing to directly confront Michael, he hadn't been idle either. After failing direct admission and being rejected in her interview, Lily was still arranged by him to enter the film academy, thus officially stepping into the entertainment industry. She was truly consistent from beginning to end. I chuckled sarcastically to myself, trash still trying to desperately climb to the top, huh? I walked straight to my car, The car sped through the snow-covered traffic, heading straight to my company building. 3 days later, the most important bidding session was about to take place. This was one of the key milestones for me to stand on equal footing with Michael. For 3 days, Isabella and I practically ate and slept at the office, finalizing the optimal bidding proposal. Finally, at the public bidding session, there were no surprises. My company, Lantam, officially won the bid. When the company name was called out, I slowly stood up, turning around. My eyes met Michael's, filled with shock. "Miss Charlotte?" I curled my lips, a faint smile playing on them. "Long time no see, brother." After the bidding session ended, he chased after me, blocking me in the hallway, his voice full of anger and disbelief, as if he still couldn't believe his eyes. "Lantam is your company? Isabella has been missing all this time. You hid her, didn't you?" I chuckled, my eyes full of sarcasm. "Why are you in such a hurry, Michael?" I stood on my tiptoes, moving closer, slowly looking straight into his eyes, deliberately lowering my voice. "Isabella and you weren't acquainted in the first place, so why are you so eager to find her? Or is there something I don't know?" I blinked, tilting my head, smiling provocatively. "You're not planning anything illegal, are you?" Michael narrowed his eyes slightly, his gaze suddenly becoming sharp. I chuckled again, calmly turning and walking away, leaving him rooted to the spot. This time, returning to the country, I didn't bother to hide. After winning the big contract, I began actively socializing, networking with prominent figures in the business world. Thanks to the exclusive right to use Isabella's patent, plus snatching an important project from the Miller Group, everyone treated me with extreme courtesy. This enthusiastic welcome was something I had never received even when I won the Best Actress award 3 times in my previous life. I held a glass of red wine, gently swirling the dark red liquid inside, and sighed. Indeed, only when you hold the means of production do people have real value. Beside me, Sarah turned her head, her eyes intently observing me from head to toe. "How do I feel like you've only been gone 4 or 5 years, but it's as if you've matured by a decade?" I shrugged and chuckled. "It's normal. At 18, you can rely on your youth to act recklessly. But now that I've graduated from university, if I want to bare my fangs at the world, I first have to learn to put on an educated facade." With that, I calmly raised my bidding paddle and shouted, "To million." At that very moment, Lily suddenly turned her head, her eyes fixed on me. Even Ethan, sitting beside her, couldn't help but look up, his gaze meeting mine. The moment our eyes met, I could clearly see the fleeting surprise in his eyes. I observed closely, quickly noticing the faint scar on his forehead. Suddenly, I found it very interesting. Just then, Ethan regained his composure and immediately raised his bidding paddle. 6 million. I chuckled softly. I had guessed correctly from the beginning. He wanted to buy this diamond bracelet for Lily because her birthday was in a few days. Even if Ethan tried his best to gain a little power in the John Group, he still couldn't compare to Michael having the entire Miller Group in his hands. To compete for favor, he could only try to win her over in other ways. I calmly bid, intentionally raising the price little by little, watching him grit his teeth and pay 6 million for the diamond bracelet. Then I chuckled faintly. "Such deep affection, Ethan." He tightly gripped the bracelet, his eyes darkening as he silently stared at me for a long time. Then he softly called out, "Charlotte." I immediately took a step back, feigning disgust, my voice full of sarcasm. "Oh, please." Hearing that makes me want to puke. Then I looked him up and down, slowly letting out a cold scoff. "Compared to your mistress, at least you have more guts than she does. After all, you successfully climbed into the main position, didn't you?" I deliberately lowered my voice, curling my lips as I asked him, "But I'm curious, how do you and my brother arrange your schedules? You get Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. He gets Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And then on Sundays, all 3 of you are together." My voice had no intention of being subtle. As expected, right after the auction, quite a few people in the business world curiously approached me, probing for information. I put on a troubled expression, but in the end, I reluctantly revealed, "Oh, it's nothing much. My brother and young Master Zhang, they both like the same actress. Just a love triangle, that's all. Who doesn't have someone they adore?" For love, people can endure anything. After that day, rumors exploded everywhere. Not only were there rumors about the three of them, but I also began pouring money into the entertainment industry, promoting new actresses. I stole quite a few important roles that should have belonged to Lily in my previous life. How could Michael endure his White Lotus being suppressed? He immediately took action against me, and this was exactly what I had been waiting for. If he didn't make a move, how would he expose his weaknesses for me to exploit? My name suddenly appeared on the hot search, accompanied by Lantam Company. Lantam founder Charlotte, school bullying Charlotte. Charlotte spreads malicious rumors, Lily bullied. The video from the school anniversary ceremony where I smashed Lily's piano was once again dug up, but this time, they cut out the part where I played Symphony of Fate. Not only that, they also contacted my old classmates to gather more testimonies. That's right, in high school, Charlotte openly hated Lily. She tore up Lily's exam papers, poured ink into her desk, and even incited the whole class to ostracize her. But because she was a rich heiress, Lily couldn't do anything but endure it. Later, when the incident exploded, she was expelled from school, but immediately after, she went abroad to study and cleanse her image. And now she's back, turning herself into a successful businesswoman in the video. The male student was righteous, his face filled with indignation. My company's stock price continuously dropped for several days. Partners began calling, hinting, and asking what exactly was going on. I knew that if I didn't give them a satisfactory explanation, the contracts would be immediately suspended. I twirled my fountain pen in my hand, my voice calm as I spoke on the phone. Just wait a little longer. We're all business people. I'm sure you understand that if you're not confident of victory, you shouldn't act too soon. Fortunately, Lily wasn't as patient as I thought. She hated me even more than in my previous life. This time, seeing me slandered online, she couldn't stand it anymore and immediately organized a live stream to speak out. On the live broadcast, she feigned hesitation, her voice carrying a hint of sadness and nostalgia. I still remember very clearly that year when the teacher called me up to read. Because I studied in a rural primary school, teachers had to teach many subjects, so I only learned basic English. She began to recount her hardships, her eyes sparkling with tears. I chuckled faintly, silently picking up my phone and dialing a number. She intended to put on a show in front of me. Let's see if she could still cry this time. It's a bit embarrassing to say, but the first time I realized my pronunciation wasn't standard was when she laughed at me. Lily lowered her head slightly, her voice carrying a hint of shame and self-deprecation. But as she spoke, her eyes were already moist with a thin layer of tears. She continued to recount the performance at the school anniversary ceremony. I also prepared for a long time. I studied piano for many years. Her voice still feigned calmness, but the more she spoke, the more heartbreaking it sounded. The live comments exploded. I don't know if they were genuinely curious netizens or hired commenters, but a flurry of comments appeared simultaneously. Sweetie, you're amazing. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Charlotte is truly shameless. Doesn't she look at herself? What right does she have to laugh at someone who works hard? Wait, am I the only one who noticed something illogical? She said she went to primary school in a village and didn't even have an English teacher, yet she claims to have studied piano for over 10 years. Since when did villages have pianos? I read the last comment and couldn't help but burst out laughing, but the comment quickly scrolled away, immediately drowned out by a flurry of other comments. After all, only a few people were sober enough to realize this contradiction. That live stream garnered over 5 million viewers. Lily's name once again topped the search trends, while I was mercilessly slammed by the entire internet. The next morning, my father called me home. He angrily ordered, immediately merge Lantam into the Miller Group. You went abroad for 3 years and learned nothing. You've only been back a few days and already caused such a big mess. Hand over the company to the family immediately, then hold a public press conference and apologize. I calmly looked at him, not rushing to speak, then slowly said each word. Dad, you should clarify one thing first. It was my brother's girlfriend who caused trouble, not my company having problems. So what? You bullied her first. My father slammed the table, his eyes red with anger. If you keep being stubborn like this, don't blame me for not considering you my daughter anymore. I smiled, my voice calm. Oh, I guess you forgot, didn't you? The one who gave birth to me and carried me for 9 months and 10 days was my mother. Soon after, the Miller Group and the Jong Group announced their collaboration. I slightly curled my lips, not surprised at all. They finally showed their hand. The Miller Group, joining forces with the Jong Group, continuously targeted my company, snatching quite a few major projects from Lantam. My father publicly declared his intention to sever ties with me as his daughter. In front of the media, he loudly cursed me. I don't have such a malicious daughter. She doesn't deserve the Miller name. In the parking lot, I was almost splashed with acid by one of Lily's crazy fans. If I hadn't reacted quickly, the scene from my previous life might have been replayed. Not only that, my father also secretly conspired with Michael. They intended to use my high school medical records, plus my breakdown at the school anniversary ceremony, to commit me to a mental hospital. Whether in my previous life or this one, they only knew how to use these dirty tricks. But unfortunately, this time, I was no longer the me of my previous life. If they wanted to play a game, I wouldn't hesitate to play along with them to the very end. My counterattack officially began. Brother, considering the current situation on the surface, I seemed to be continuously failing, with no power to resist. It was at this very moment that Lily won the first Best Actress award of her life, and her birthday was also approaching. Michael threw a grand celebration for her, meticulously decorating it luxuriously, even inviting fans to attend. This event was also live-streamed online, attracting millions of viewers. On stage, Lily wore a pristine white dress, gently thanking her fans. The entire hall applauded thunderously, the atmosphere more vibrant than ever. Then, the program moved to the video segment of birthday wishes from fans. The large screen behind her lit up, and images began to play, but the images were a bit blurry, and the camera angle seemed to be secretly filmed. In the video, in a dressing room on a film set, another actress was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting her costume. Suddenly, Lily rushed in and collided with her. Next, she grabbed the actress's hand and slapped herself hard across the face. The other actress stared, wide-eyed with shock, but Lily chuckled coldly. Who do you think you are to snatch a role from me? Who gave you permission to compete with me? And you dare to make me a supporting actress for you? Do you know who my boyfriend is? He's the CEO of the Miller Group, Michael Miller. Just wait. When he sees the injury on my face, you'd better think about how you'll live after your video of bullying colleagues is released and you're completely banned. The entire hall fell into a deathly silence. The audience was stunned, reporters shocked, and fans gasped. Only I sat in the darkness, quietly raising my wine glass, taking a small sip, then slowly curled my lips into a smile. This was truly the best birthday gift. Lily, how else do you plan to play the saint this time? The large screen continued to play. In the video, Lily stared at the chest of the actress opposite her, a meaningful smile playing on her lips. At that very moment, no, Lily shrieked a piercing sound, immediately rushing forward to block the screen, but it was too late. The hall erupted. Fans exploded, reporters gasped, and murmurs filled the air. Immediately, Lily's and Michael's names were pushed straight to the top of the search trends. Lily, my boyfriend, is Michael Miller. Lily birthday live stream. Lily bullied again. Comments under the posts increased rapidly. Right beside me, Sarah tightly clutched her phone, furiously typing. Lily, are you bullied everywhere you go? Is the whole world against you? Her comment was flooded with likes, soaring to the top of the hot comments. Netizens began a full-scale attack. Oh my god, she slapped herself with someone else's hand. How ruthless. Look at her swollen face. If it wasn't swollen, how could she prove she was bullied? Don't call her Lily anymore. Change it to Green Tea Lily. If I remember correctly, the movie that helped her win the Best Actress award, the female lead wasn't originally her, was it? Before that, there was another very popular actress, but she suddenly had nude photos leaked and was blacklisted. So, she couldn't get a role and relied on slander and defamation to snatch it. I sat there, gently raising the wine glass to my lips, slowly taking a sip. Indeed, nothing was better than a birthday gift like this. Lily, how else do you plan to play the saint this time? While netizens were still buzzing, another video unexpectedly climbed the hot search. This video was filmed at a foreign university. In the frame were foreign students with different hair and eye colors. After a Chinese international student spoke, the crowd erupted in laughter, mimicking her non-standard pronunciation. A thin, Blonde guy, with an arrogant demeanor, repeated the English sentence in a standard British accent, then mocked. Does everyone know what this is? This is proper British pronunciation. You joker. The very next second, he was grabbed by the collar. By me, and I landed a punch directly on his face. The screen violently shook. My voice, clear and sharp, burst from my cold lips. What are you laughing at? Do you laugh like that at your father's funeral? The blonde guy roared with anger, demanding a fight, but in the end, he was punched by me again. I used my shoe to lift his chin, a faint smile playing on my lips, then slowly said, do you know what this is? This is called Chinese Kung Fu, you wild dog. This video was not posted by me. The person who filmed and posted it was a normal Chinese female student studying abroad there. She included a share. I am also a girl who grew up in the mountains. When I was born, my grandmother almost threw me into the fire to burn alive. But unlike Miss Lily, our village didn't have a piano, nor did we have any kind benefactor providing 10,000 yuans a month. Only a girl like me had to take almost 30 years to gather enough courage to leave that place to study. On my very first day abroad, I was ridiculed. I couldn't stand it when I saw someone distorting black and white, slandering someone who had once helped me. In the comment section, netizens boiled. Wait, I'm not mistaken, am I? The person in the video is Charlotte, who was accused of school bullying. Finally, someone is telling the truth. Who would believe a girl from a rural area who claims to have studied piano for over 10 years since childhood? The logic doesn't add up at all, yet a bunch of people blindly believed it. In short, if Charlotte is called a bully, then I just wish I could meet more bullies like her. I sat in front of the screen, quietly sipping a glass of wine. Lily, how much longer can you maintain this White Lotus image? Damn, that's one cool big sister. Wait a minute, wasn't Lily's benefactor Michael? And Michael is Charlotte's half-brother? Could it be that he wants to fight his sister for assets, so he deliberately slandered her? Soon after, another video appeared. It was a video from my 18th birthday party. It was a video proving everything that had been hidden for years. Images from many years ago. Lily intentionally jumped from the rooftop to get tuition sponsorship, then falsely accused another little girl in the orphanage of pushing her. The surveillance video, hidden for so many years, finally appeared online. But this wasn't all the evidence. Michael hiring someone to kill Isabella, his dark dealings with my father, from project theft and bidding fraud to murder and silencing witnesses to manipulate the Miller Group, the dirty schemes they had executed were exposed one by one to the light. And finally, the story of Ethan. He had manipulated his own biological mother for 7 years, gradually breaking her down, then forced her to commit suicide right in front of his father, just to secure a place in the Zhang family. I poured money, like water, collecting all the evidence from my previous life to this one, releasing it onto the hot search one after another. Thanks to their previous drama, the number of people following this scandal had already reached tens of millions. Now, as the story entered its conclusion, the crowd erupted. Damn, what is this? It started with slandering a young businesswoman, then exposed a bunch of murders? Really? Murderers? Call the police. What are you waiting for? The police were overwhelmed by a barrage of reports. The situation spiraled completely out of control. No one could suppress it. Those who thought they could manipulate public opinion were ultimately buried alive by public opinion itself. I leaned back in my chair, slowly raising my wine glass, taking a small sip, watching a series of names fall into the abyss. I gently curled my lips, then slowly whispered, "Are you satisfied with this ending?" The day my father and Michael were arrested by the police, my mother tossed a divorce paper onto the table. Michael couldn't believe it. He stared at her with red eyes, roaring, "Mom, I'm your biological son too. Why are you favoring Charlotte? I'm your son too." My mother took a sip of tea and calmly replied, "Your father favored you, so I'll favor your sister. The world has always been fair, hasn't it?" At the same time, the projects that the Miller Group and the Zhang Group had stolen from me were exposed, one after another, along with a series of violations. They were not only prosecuted for murder but also accused of economic crimes. I acquired the depleted Miller Group, officially merging it into Lantam. Then, I arranged to meet Hannah Zhang, Ethan's older half-sister. She was the legitimate daughter of the Zhang family, born from a political marriage. She twirled her coffee cup in her hand, her voice calm. "When I was little, I hated that woman very much. I thought she had ruined my family, but later, I realized that if my father hadn't cheated, there wouldn't have been anyone named Ethan in this world. She chuckled faintly, her eyes cold. Dying at the hands of her own son, I guess that's her karma. A year ago, I had actively contacted Hannah. We reached an agreement. I would help her kick Ethan out of the John group and help her gain complete power. In return, she would help me with domestic resource transactions, including the recent manipulation of public opinion. She was the one behind the scenes, helping me push it to a climax. She rested her chin on her hand, her eyes smiling. But I'm still very curious. How did you guess that his mother's suicide was related to him? I slightly curved my lips but didn't answer. Because in my previous life, he had done the same thing to me. Before the official verdict was announced, I specifically visited my old acquaintances in prison. The first person I met was my brother. He tightly clenched his fists, staring at me with eyes that seemed to want to devour me alive. I chuckled softly, my voice filled with mockery. Don't look at me like that, brother. I know what you want to ask. I sat down, lowering my voice, emphasizing each word. Being driven out like a stray dog, I tasted that feeling once already. Do you really think that all these years, I've just been indulging in debauchery, drowning in alcohol and parties in a foreign land? During that time, I was so busy I couldn't even get a full night's sleep. Besides studying and running the company, I also had to put in effort to find every lead related to them. Based on the clues from my previous life, I traced every step, finding evidence of these three people's crimes. They manipulated things so skillfully, almost leaving no loopholes. That proved this couldn't be the first time they had done this. A villain couldn't only do evil in front of me. In places I couldn't see, they must have caused countless other shadows. And I guessed correctly. I calmly looked at him, my voice full of sarcasm. Michael, Dad always said I wasn't like his child. He taught you to be a tyrannical thug, a wild beast willing to trample on the law to achieve your goals. I chuckled faintly, my voice light as a feather. Fortunately, I'm not like him at all. The second person I visited was Lily. Her hair was messy, her face haggard, her eyes filled with such hatred that it seemed she wanted to devour me alive right through the glass. This time, she no longer had the appearance of a white lotus. She was completely insane, her voice hoarsely screaming madly. If you had evidence, why didn't you reveal it earlier? I tilted my head and chuckled faintly, pretending to be weak. Was it fun? She shrieked, her voice hoarse with anger. Fun, my ass. I chuckled softly, calmly replying, oh, not fun. Then, why did you pretend for so long? I slowly stood up, my gaze sweeping over Lily, who was almost insane inside the cell, then smiled, my voice calm and cruel. Of course, I had to let you think you had won. That's what makes it interesting, isn't it? I could have released this evidence earlier, but where's the fun in that? I wanted to let her think she had reached the pinnacle, think everything was in her hands, think she had absolutely won, right before the dawn of her glorious moment, to personally witness everything collapse, to see all glory, power, and fame crushed in an instant, to watch herself fall into hell without a single way out. Just like I experienced in my previous life, this time, it's your turn. The last person I went to see was Ethan. Actually, I hadn't intended to because Lily was my enemy from beginning to end, and Michael had a blood relation to me. As for Ethan, after my love for him disappeared, there was no longer any relationship between us. But the police said he wanted to see me once, so I came here. I sat down across from him, separated by a glass panel. He was silent for a long time, just quietly looking at me. When I started to lose patience and was about to get up and leave, he suddenly spoke, his voice very soft. It shouldn't be like this. I stopped, frowned, and turned to look at him. He looked straight at me, his dark eyes sparkling with an unpredictable emotion. He spoke hoarsely. The Miller family should have been mine. We should have been engaged. I suddenly burst out laughing. If it weren't for the faint scar on his forehead, I would have almost believed that the Ethan before me was still the Ethan from my previous life. But then, I suddenly found it so ridiculous. I chuckled faintly, looking at him with eyes full of sarcasm. Just engaged? Why don't you finish the rest of the story? Didn't you once use me to get everything from the Miller group, and then colluded with Michael to kill me? Ethan pressed his lips tightly, his eyes flickering slightly. Then he whispered, his voice full of bitterness. But a long, long time. After that, I regretted it. It's just that by then, you no longer knew. I suddenly burst out laughing so hard my whole body trembled. This was the most ridiculous story I had ever heard. Then I narrowed my eyes at him, slowly speaking each word. That's right. I was dead. Of course, I couldn't have known. I placed my hand on the glass, looking directly into his eyes. Then I lowered my voice, each word sharp as a knife. But even if I did know, who cares about your regret? This time, I am the winner. The one who goes to hell is you, Ethan. This is the ending you deserve. This winter came earlier than usual. When I left the detention center, the sky outside was already dark. The cold air swept across my face, but I only felt incredibly comfortable. My phone vibrated. It was a call from Isabella. She spoke calmly, but her voice held a hint of eagerness. After the Lunar New Year, I'll be going abroad to start new experiments at the Research Institute. I curved my lips slightly and softly replied, then I wish you smooth sailing. Feel free to do what you want. I'll help you clean up any remaining messes. A WeChat message popped up on the screen from Sarah. We've already found a table. Hurry up and come pay. Don't try to hide. I stared at the screen for a moment and couldn't help but laugh. Okay, on the way there. Outside the car window, the crescent moon hung in the sky, illuminating a corner of the inky black night. It was gentle and delicate, yet still possessed a brilliant beauty. This night would pass. The moon would also set, and then my sun would rise again.